weapons of choice, but the weapons are not of flesh, but divinely powerful. What? For the destruction of fortresses. The fortresses that sets up in our soul when we let the outside adversity be converted into inward pressure. Now it sets up this fortress of doubt, this fortress of worry, and that sinks you into this place called depression and sadness, sinks you into this place of giving up fatalism, saying that it's all over, it's done, I can't do it no more. Well, that may be where God actually needs you to be. And it says, with these weapons that we have, they're powerful for the destruction of. They have to be destroyed. That kind of thinking has to be destroyed. That kind of reaction has to be destroyed. And he says this, we are destroying what? Speculations. That's what's being destroyed. What is that? I don't want to speculate about nothing. I'm getting rid of the speculation. I don't need to guess. I don't need to try to wonder if it's going to work. I'm not trying to roll no dice. Casting, no, I need to know with certainty. So I need to do what? We are destroying the speculations. And what? Every lofty thing that raised up against the what? Knowledge of God. Any thought that comes up that is opposing to what God has already promised and said. Anything that comes up against what God, or opposing what God has already revealed to us in his word, that's what you need to destroy. That's what you need to let go of. That's what you need to now apply the wisdom of what God has said and doing what? And we are taking every thought captive. That requires what? Thinking. So it ain't just enough to think, Pastor. Now you got to think about your thinking. Now you have to think about what you're thinking about. Why am I thinking like this? Why am I spending my time up worrying about this? You start thinking about how you thinking. You got to examine yourself and say, wait a minute, what am I doing? I need to take that thought captive to the what? To the obedience of Christ. Because if that thought is leading me to do what? Worry, I got to deal with it. That's got to be destroyed because God has already told me not to worry. And if I'm going to be obedient to Christ who told me not to worry about anything, what you're going to eat, what you're going to put on, where you're going to live, don't worry about that. God knows you have need of all these things. Don't be like the world of the Gentiles who eagerly go out chasing after the bag, chasing after the stuff, chasing after the materials. No, God knows what you need. So make your request known to him, not to them. And he will. So you got to take the thought captive. When it arises, when the issue comes up in your mind and it starts causing, because now you've heard something or you've received something or you've discovered something, you found out something that is not favorable. And now you start looking at it from a human viewpoint way instead of a divine viewpoint way. You start looking at it, this is trouble, this is a problem, this is my sadness, this is my defeat. No, you have to look at it another way. How do I look at it? Count it all joy. Amen. That's how you take it into captive to the obedience of Christ, because I'm not going to let this be a source of my sadness, my worry, my defeat. This will be a source of joy. How? Because of what I know. Knowing that God is up to something. Knowing that God is working on me and not just my circumstances. Knowing that God is trying to build me up and tear the rest of me down. And it comes to the thought process. We're destroying the speculations and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge. We've taken every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. He says that for though we walk this way, though we live this way, we don't war this way. You got to learn how to fight. And you better learn how to love the battle. Because we live in war-torn country. This is not heaven. Take a look around. So you're at war. We're at war. Spiritual warfare is taking place. Notice Paul doesn't talk about external enemies first. He talks about thoughts. Not what's going on around you. Not what's going on with somebody else, what somebody else did, what somebody else said, and how they responded. No. Here first. What's going on in your head? What's going on in your mind? The war is over what we believe, how we process, and what we accept as true. So if we're going to win spiritual battles, we have to think like soldiers. And soldiers are well-trained individuals. You are now at boot camp. You're being trained. You're learning how, so that when you go back out there on the battlefield, you're not reacting and go get one of us killed. You're responding, and you're responding to reach for your what? Weapon. You ain't reacting and trying to hide. You ain't reacting and running scared. No, you're responding because you are now equipped with something. Realize that you've been enlisted as a soldier, and no good soldier finds himself being entangled with the details of life. Because if you've been enlisted by somebody. You are not serving in your own army.